Hi friends, it's Ashley and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be another reading vlog and we are going to be reading cozy fantasy books with cottagecore vibes. And I'm actually already in the middle of a book that has such vibes. That book is The Magical Mail Logs of Phoenix Firebolt by Paula Lester. And I just randomly stumbled upon this book one day on Amazon and the cover alone was giving me cottagecore vibes, but then I read the description and it just sounded so cozy and whimsical that I knew I had to check it out. And I'm gonna read the description to you now so you can see what I'm talking about. So it reads, a mysterious letter, a village that shouldn't exist, a post office that breathes. Phoenix Firebolt has spent 23 years at a desk job so beige it practically apologizes for existing. No friends, no connections, no one who had noticed if she disappeared. Then a letter arrives, sealed with wax, written in handwriting she almost recognizes, offering her a position as mail carrier in Moss Hollow, an enchanted village hidden from the ordinary world. The post office is a living tree. The mailboxes have opinions. The puffin who comes with the job has a sardine budget and zero tolerance for tardiness. Moss Hollow is full of enchanted care packages, a tea prescribing proprietor, and a baker who considers cold scones a moral failing. The first time in decades, Phoenix feels home, but the post office is keeping secrets, and some of them are hers. A cozy fantasy about found family, magical mail, and learning that the bravest thing you can do is stay. So that description just gives all the cozy vibes. And after reading like 68% of the book so far, I can say that the book is just as cozy and magical and whimsical as it sounds. And part of the reason why this book is just so cozy and whimsical is definitely because of the writing. The writing very much has a tone of warmth to it and is also kind of on the lyrical side. And I love the writing in this book. I've written down so many quotes in my little strawberry journal here. So look, I have so many. So there's that page and this page, that page, that page, so all of that. So that right there just shows how much I'm enjoying the writing of the story. And I'm gonna share some quotes with you that show like the writing style and also just like the warmth and coziness of the story. So one of the quotes is, color just seemed to require a kind of energy she had mislaid, like an umbrella left on a bus that she kept thinking she'd replace and never did. So that refers to the beginning of the book when our main character Phoenix is just living the same life she has lived for years. And she's kind of at the point in life where she's just going through the motions. She's kind of just really existing. She's been in the same apartment for 11 years. She's been at the same job for 23 years. And so the world is just kind of colorless for her at this point. She doesn't find excitement in it. She's just kind of doing her same old routine. But then she ends up receiving the letter from Moss Hollow to become the post office carrier and she decides to accept. And so she goes off to that small magical town that is in a forest. So now I want to read another passage that kind of contrasts with that first quote. And so now at this point, she is the mail carrier of Moss Hollow. And so that passage reads, her throat tightened. This day had color. This day had a talking mailbox and a house that tipped its chimney and a man with a leaf growing from his hair and a whisper from a mailbox slot she couldn't quite piece together and a flying chinchilla and a puffin who was, against all the evidence to the contrary, proud of her. And so that passage very much contrasts with the first quote that I read. And so we see in this book that she's finally starting to find a place where she belongs. And so a large part of this story is a story of her finding a place where she belongs. And this place where she belongs is just such a magical and whimsical place. And so now she lives in a town in the forest and she is a mail carrier, and the post office that she works for is a sentient magical post office, and it's in a tree and it's alive, like it sorts its own mail. And so her job is to deliver the mail. And she also has a puffin companion who also helps her deliver the mail, and he's one of my favorite characters. His name is Parsnip, and he doesn't talk like in the human language, but just like the looks he gives her just says so much, and I just love his character. And then in addition to Parsnip, there's other people who are different like magical beings that also live in this village, and just all of them are just so nice and friendly to Phoenix, and they're all also very interesting characters as well. And they all very much welcome her and make her feel welcome, seem to genuinely care about her. And one of those characters is a Fae baker. And so one of the first things she does when Phoenix comes to Moss Hollow is she welcomes her and gives her some scones. And there is a little passage that I want to read that involves the scones. And so it reads, "It was a scone. It was just a scone. But it was the first thing she'd eaten in longer than she could remember, that tasted like someone had made it for the purpose of making another person, of making her feel less alone." Like, that just made my heart so happy. And just overall, the found family and the cozy vibes of this town are just immaculate. And so overall, just like reading this so far has just like made my heart so happy, and it just felt like healing. And I've been reading it mostly before I go to bed because it just helps me unwind and it just helps me feel at peace. And I will say this book is very cozy. It's very much a slow burn. There isn't much action. It's mostly just following Phoenix and her finally finding a place that she belongs and seeing her make connections, and also discovering that this place has ties to her past as well, and in particular her mother. And so the story also deals with her figuring some things out about her mother and coming to terms about those things. And while this story does have very strong found family vibes, there is no romance in it, like, at all. And at least not yet. And I feel like there probably won't be because there's like no hints towards that. So just know that going into it. And overall, I feel like so far this book is quite unlike anything else I've read. And a large part that is due to the magical post office. Like, there is so much going on with this post office, and the book goes into detail about it. And it's just so magical and whimsical and creative. And so overall, I've very much been enjoying this read. One of those reads where I just read slowly because I want to savor it. And also I feel like it's that type of book where it's best enjoyed just slowly reading it. But according to my Kindle, I only have 2 hours and 14 minutes left in the book, so I will be done with it soon. And so my next update will be when I finish it. So I finished the magical mail logs of Phoenix Firebolt, and overall it was just beautiful. The writing was beautiful. The story was beautiful, with finding a place where you truly belong with people that truly care about you. And the side characters that were in this book, they were just all very fascinating and all had like very different backgrounds and personalities. And most of them were not human, which just made them even more interesting. For example, there's a satyr historian who has been around for a long time. There's a lighthouse keeper that originally came from the sea, and so he was like a sea animal, and he's still kind of like part seal. And then one of my favorite side characters is the Fae Baker, who never lets anyone go hungry, and her scones, they never get cold. They will stay the perfect temperature until you finish them all. And also she like hums like magical lullabies as well. And then I mentioned him before, but he remains like my favorite side character, and that is Parsnip, our postal puffin, who works aside our main character Phoenix. And even though he does not talk, just like the looks he gives her say so much, and he just has so much personality and spunk, and I just love him. In addition to all that, this book is also a beautiful story of overcoming grief and loss, and those topics are handled very well. So in the setting of the magical post office is used in order to like explore those two topics. And specifically, the magical post office is connected to the history of Phoenix's family. And just the magical post office as a setting in and of itself, it's just done so well. Just the way it's written, it has so many different layers, and it definitely feels like a character onto itself. It is very much sentient. And as the story went on, just more and more layers got added to the post office, and I really wasn't expecting it to be like as detailed and as whimsical as it was. And so I feel like the whole system of the post office is definitely like the thing that makes this book like unique and different from other cozy fantasy books. And so this is a series and book 2 is already out. And so I am very interested to see where the story goes in book 2, because the arc that was going on in book 1 was like wrapped up and resolved at the end. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen next in book 2, what is going to be the main focus of that book. And so I would definitely recommend this book, especially if you are a fan of whimsical, slow burn, cozy fantasy that is character focused and has very strong found family vibes. So the next book I'm going to pick up is Thistlemarsh by Maria Corrigan. And so the cover of this, again, is giving me cottagecore vibes. And I'm very excited for this one because it is one of the books on my 10 most anticipated cozy fantasy books for 2026. And so to give you an idea of what this is about, I'm going to read the inside flap. Fairies disappeared over 100 years ago as suddenly as slipping through a doorway. It was only the very foolish or the very determined who held out hope for their return. In the wake of the Great War, the world is decidedly a magical place for Mouse Dunn. She once dreamed of becoming a fairy anthropologist, but with one telegram her world shattered. At the Battle of Somme, her cousin's body disappeared into the mud, and her brother was left with debilitating shell shock. It was time, she knew, to put aside childish dreams. When Mouse receives news that her uncle has left her the fairy-blessed Thistlemarsh Hall, a dilapidated manor in the English countryside, she must leave her brother's side and return to her childhood home to claim her birthright. But there is a catch in her uncle's offer. If Mouse does not rehabilitate the crumbling house in 1 month's time, she will forfeit her inheritance and any hope of caring for her brother. It quickly becomes clear it's impossible to prepare the manor in the allotted time until a mysterious fairy appears with a proposition. He offers to restore Thistlemarsh for a price. Mouse knows better than to trust a fairy, especially one so insufferably handsome and arrogant. But she is out of options. There are dark and magical forces at work in the house, and Mouse must confront the ghosts of her past and the secrets of her heart, or lose Thistlemarsh and herself in the process. So that just sounds so good. It's kind of giving me Emily Wilde vibes because Mouse wanted to be a fairy anthropologist. Speaking of fairies, I'm very interested to see this book's portrayal of them because, again, it kind of sounds like they might be kind of like Emily Wilde fairies. And then the whole like historical backdrop of this also has me intrigued as well. And then also intriguing is how it says there are dark and magical forces at work in the house. Like, I want to know more about these dark and magical forces. And so I am going to go start this, and I'll be back after I read some with my first thoughts. So I finished Thistlemarsh. I actually just finished it not too long ago, and overall I enjoyed it. I had a good time with this book. I will say, though, it did take me a little bit to get into it, but I think that was on me just because of my mindset recently and just because of my personal preferences. So over the last couple of weeks, I've started watching this Chinese historical romance drama called Pursuit of Jade. And I became obsessed with it. It's all I wanted to do was like watch that show when I could. And so that's what I did in my spare time. And so I haven't really been reading that much over the last couple of weeks. And I just watched the last 2 episodes of the show yesterday. And so between yesterday and today is when I read most of this book. And before that, I was only like reading a little bit of it at work on lunch break. And with some books, I feel like you need to read like a bigger portion of it at one time in order to get like pulled into the story. And I feel like that's how it was with me for this book. And also the other reason why I feel like it took me a little bit to get into it is personally, I'm a fantasy reader. I love my books with magic and fantasy elements in them. And the beginning of this is not like that. It feels very contemporary. And at the beginning of this book, there has just been a war that has been going on for a while that has just recently ended. And so the book talks about that a lot in the beginning and like the consequences of that war. And Mouse was a nurse in that war. And so she saw a lot of things. And also she lost her cousin to that war and her brother while he survived. he mentally lost himself. And so, like, she has been trying to nurse him back to life, but he doesn't remember her or much of anything. And so that's been tough for her. But then her uncle passes away, and her inheritance is her childhood home, Thistlemarsh. And so she goes there. But in order for her to claim her inheritance, there are some conditions that have to be met. The main condition is that she has to fix up Thistlemarsh within 30 days, or she forfeits the house along with the money that she needs to care for her brother. And there's so much work that needs to be done on this manor that she realizes right away that she's not going to be able to do it in 30 days. And so when this fairy, Thornwood, who is also our love interest, ends up turning up and offers to fix up the house for a price, she ends up agreeing, even though she knows that you should never make a bargain with a fairy. And so Thornwood starts to use his magic to fix up the manor, but they soon learn that there is other magic at work in the manor that is working against his magic. And so then the two of them kind of have to go on like these mini quests around the manor, trying to figure out how to dismantle this other magic. And that's where the story started to pull me in, was when they started doing those little quests. And that was like about 150 pages into the book. And I think that it started to pull me in because the story was getting more magical and whimsical. And I started to feel pulled in at that part because of the magic aspect of it. And so those little quests, little adventures were some of my favorite parts of the book. And also during one of them, there is an animal companion that gets introduced. And that animal companion was also one of my favorite parts of this book. And that animal companion also brought a little bit of coziness to this book as well, which at the beginning, this very much does not feel very cozy. And I feel like overall, this book feels cozy in the way that the Emily Wilde books feel, which I personally find the Emily Wilde series cozy, but I know some people may not. It's like a different type of coziness from, like, say, Legends and Lattes, or the book I just read before this one. And on that note, overall, I would say this didn't feel as cozy as Emily Wilde to me personally. Coziness of the Emily Wilde books for me comes from like the characters and the found family vibes. And this one, I feel like you got some coziness from the characters, and especially the animal companion, but it wasn't as strong as the coziness that you get from the Emily Wilde books characters. Speaking of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, this book very much gave me those vibes. First off, with the depiction of the fairies in here. So the fairies in here are very much like your darker, more vicious, cunning fairies that see humans as playthings, which is similar to the fairies in Emily Wilde. And similarly to the Emily Wilde series, you get chapters that tell stories of encounters with fairies. Also, our main character, Mouse, in here does remind me a little bit of Emily in the way that she has knowledge of fairies and uses that knowledge around fairies. She also has a book of fairy stories that she also uses as a guide. And then in addition to the quests that Mouse and Thornwood go on, my other favorite aspect of this book was the relationship between Thornwood and Mouse and seeing it develop. So in the beginning of the book, Mouse is very much wary of Thornwood, with good reason. He's a fairy. She's been taught all her life to never trust fairies. But as the two of them go through their quests and get to know each other more, you see them start to care for each other. And there are some cute and sweet moments between the two of them, and there is no spice in their romance. It's just cute, sweet moments. And while their romance and the relationship is one of my favorite parts of the book, I also wanted more from it. Like, yes, we did get some cute, sweet moments between the two of them that made me giddy, but at the same time, I felt like I was missing out a little bit on their relationship, that the book could have showed a little bit more of the relationship developing between the two of them. And so while I liked their relationship, I didn't love their relationship. Like, they're not my favorite relationship ever. And then the last 100 pages of this book were crazy. So much happened. The last 100 pages definitely take a darker turn. They are not cozy at all, except for like maybe the very end. And while I was reading this, I did think at one point that maybe a little too much was happening at the end and a little too quickly. But at the same time, like, everything that happened did make sense. All the dots connected, and it wasn't like anything like fell from the sky. And then overall, I really liked how this ended. I thought the last chapter especially, it was perfect, and I really loved the way it was written. And so I would recommend this, especially if you are a fan of the Emily Wilde series, and if you like books that have a little bit of coziness in them, but also have a good amount of action and a little bit of darkness to them as well, then I would definitely recommend this. So the next and final book book that we are going to be reading for this video is going to be The Faraway Inn by Sarah Beth Durst. I feel like out of the 3 books in this video, this book is going to have the strongest cottagecore vibes. And Sarah Beth Durst, I've read her other books before, and I already know she can write really good cozy fancies. So I know the cozy fancy vibes in here are going to be immaculate, and I'm really excited to get into this one. And this one, unlike the other 2 books that I've read so far in this video, is a YA fantasy. And I absolutely love the cover and the edges of this. It's just screaming cozy cottagecore. So I'm going to read the description on the inside flap to give you an idea of what this one is about. When 16-year-old Calissa arrives at her great aunt's B&B in rural Vermont for the summer, she's shocked to find a rundown inn rather than the cozy bed and breakfast she was expecting. Grumpy and eccentric, Auntie Z is determined to keep anyone from messing with her beloved inn, even though she clearly needs the help. To convince her great aunt to keep her around, Calissa sets to work fixing up the inn, enlisting extra help from the groundskeeper's handsome son. But the longer she stays, the surer she is that there's something strange about the B&B and its guests. Something almost otherworldly. The inn is keeping a magical secret, but to protect the place she's come to love, Calissa must unravel the truth before it's too late. So I'm here with an update. So I have made it to chapter 17, page 212. So I'm a little more than halfway through this because it's a little over 350 pages. And so far I'm really enjoying this. It's everything that I expect out of a cozy fantasy by Sarah Beth Durst. It's cute and whimsical and full of cozy things like baking. Our main female character, Calissa, one of her hobbies is baking. And so in this book, she has been baking cakes and pancakes, and it's making me so hungry. It's making me want to bake a cake. And also adding to the coziness, there are animal companions in here as well. There is a winged lizard that can fly that is probably some type of dragon named Steve, who is absolutely adorable. And I really like our main female character in here, Calissa. Like, she feels very much like a teenager, but not in an annoying way. I really like how she has like some insecurities, but at the same time, she's also very resilient and determined, and she never lets something get her down for too long. She always tries to come up with a solution using like the knowledge that she has. And I also really like just like how considerate she is and how she thinks things through and acts according to like the situation or the people involved. And so when she first comes to the Faraway Inn, her Aunt Z, is very unhappy to see her, and it's like, what are you doing here? You have to leave. And her Aunt Z, after finding out that Calissa has like a broken heart and is trying to recover from her cheating ex-boyfriend, she's like, okay, you can stay here 3 days to recover, because her aunt says that the inn is a refuge and a place for those who need to escape. Even though Auntie Z says that she can only stay for 3 days, Calissa is determined to get her aunt's approval so she can stay for the whole summer. And so she sets to work starting to like fix up and clean the inn, because the inn is very run down at this point. And speaking of the inn, I really like the setting of the inn. I like the magic and whimsy of it. And I like how bit by bit, as Calissa cleans the rooms and fixes up the inn, that we get to see the magic coming back to the inn and we get to see different sides of it. And it's just been a lot of fun getting to see all those different magical features of the inn. For example, there is a tea set that makes its own tea, which is really cool and cozy, and I want one. And then in addition to the magical setting of the inn, you also have the guests who are staying at the inn, and there's only a few of them at the time because of the inn being so run down. But those few guests are just very interesting characters, and they're all non-human characters. And I feel like Sarah Beth Durst just always does such a good job of writing non-human characters, and they're all very quirky and interesting, and I'm really enjoying finding out about all of them. And then in addition to Auntie Z and the inn guests, there is also the groundskeeper's son that is mentioned on the inside flap of this. So he is human and his name is Jack, and he's just a little bit older than Calissa, and he has lived his whole life in the inn, and he's also the character that Calissa has like spent the most time with in the book so far. And just like the dynamic and the interactions between the two of them are really cute and heartwarming. And Calissa does mention that she does find him attractive, but also at the same time she's like, no, that's not why I'm here right now. And also, he is going through some stuff as well. He's not really in the right mindset or place for romance right now. And so they have more of a friendship dynamic going on right now, but it's just really cute and sweet. And so I'm really excited to read more of this, and in particular to learn more about the inn and its magic. And there's recently been a plot point revealed that I am very invested in, and it's connected to the inn and its magic. And so I'm very interested to see how that's going to unfold. And so those are all my thoughts at the moment, and my next update will probably be when I finish this with my final thoughts. So here's the final result. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. The only thing I will say that stressed me out a little in the beginning is some of the pieces don't line up 100%. And so that was a little stressful in the beginning, but I pretty much came to terms with that. And after that, I found this to be relaxing. Once I got over the fact that the pieces just weren't going to line up, it's just how it was. But I will say, if you are a perfectionist and that would bother you, then I definitely would not recommend this. But otherwise, it was a fun little craft, and I like how it was like pretty quick as well, because sometimes like the longer cozy crafts that take like longer than a day, I don't always do well with, because sometimes I don't always go back to them. I kind of forget about them, and then months later I'm like, oh yeah, I was doing that thing. And so I prefer ones that are on the shorter side that I can kind of do in one sitting. And so I recommend this if you are just looking for a quick, cute, cozy little craft, and if it not lining up perfectly doesn't bother you. So I finished the Faraway Inn, and overall this was just a delightful read. It was cozy, heartwarming, uplifting, and wholesome. And so like everything in this book like contributed to the coziness, the setting of the magical inn, the quirky but well-meaning side characters, and even our main character Calissa. In the inn, in addition to adding to the coziness of the story, it also contributes to the story being an uplifting one, because the inn is a refuge where people go to escape and just like have a moment to themselves so they can figure things out and heal. And seeing where she is in the beginning of the book compared to where she is by the end of the book was also very uplifting. And so at the beginning of the book, she's in a very not good place because her whole summer has been upended by her boyfriend cheating on her, and so she goes to this inn to get away from all that. But by the end of the story, you see how the inn has positively affected her and changed her life for the better, and you see now like she knows more about herself and what she wants from life. And so I really liked Calissa as a character. I thought she was a strong character who still has flaws and who undergoes significant character growth by the end of the book. In addition to Calissa, I also enjoyed the minor characters in here as well. And one of those minor characters is the groundkeeper's son, Jack. And the relationship between him and Calissa was just so wholesome. So they start off as strangers and then they become friends. And their relationship does develop into romance by the end of the book. And their romance was just super cute and sweet and wholesome. And also it was very much a healthy relationship, which I think is important because this book is for young adults. And so it's a positive example for younger readers. And overall, I think this book very much lives up to the dedication, which says, for everyone who needs an escape, a refuge, a moment to breathe. Like, that's 100% what this book is. It's an escape. It feels like a warm hug. It will very much heal something in you. And so I'm giving this 4 stars. And so with that, we've reached the end of this vlog. And before I let you go, I just want to do a quick wrap up of what we read, and I'm going to rank them. So my favorite book I read in this video was The Magical Mail Logs of Phoenix Firebolt. I feel like I enjoyed it just a little bit more than The Faraway Inn, and the cozy vibes in here were immaculate. It's just as cozy as The Faraway Inn. I think the cozy vibes in the 2 of those are about even. But what I enjoyed a little bit more in The Magical Mail Logs was the setting. The Faraway Inn, we have the Magical Inn as our setting, and it's very whimsical, very cozy. But in the Magical Mail Logs, we have Magical Post Office, and the Magical Post Office, the concept and idea of it and just how layered and developed it was just like so unique to me. Like, I've never read anything quite like it. And so I feel like that beat out the setting of the inn and the Faraway Inn because I have read books before about magical inns. And then the other thing I loved about the Magical Mail Logs was the animal companions. So the Faraway Inn also had an animal companion, had the little shoulder dragon, but the Magical Mail Logs, you have our postal puffin, Parsnip, and I just loved him so much. Like, I love the little dragon as well, but Parsnip, he just is on another level. So that's why the Magical Mail Logs was my favorite. And then the Faraway Inn is right below that. Like, I also really enjoyed that one as well. And the Magical Mail Logs, like I said, just beat it out just a tiny bit. And then below those 2 was Thistlemarsh. And while it was my least favorite of the video, I still enjoyed it. It was slightly different than what I was expecting. It was slightly less cozy than I was expecting, and also cozy in a different way from the other 2 books. It's very much cozy in the way that Emily Wilde is cozy. And that being said, it very much gave Emily Wilde vibes. So I feel like if you are a fan of Emily Wilde, you might end up liking Thistlemarsh. So those are my rankings. And with that, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.